Let's shoot the shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, come on, come on, let's shoot the shit. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's time to shoot the shit. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, motherfucker, let's shoot the shit.
Hey, welcome to another Fearless Q&A. We've got a pretty good show, I think, today, and we're live as usual. And you can tweet your questions to at Fearless Q&A, and we will take the questions and we'll read them live on the air, and maybe we'll give out some gifts, some T-shirts or things like that. So tweet us your questions. Today on the show, I'm really happy to have Miles Nadell. Miles is the CEO of MDC Partners. He's my boss. So, I love that about him and a lot of other things about him. We've become actually good friends. Welcome.
Pleasure to be here. Great to be here.
It's good to have you. We also have Ferris Jakob on the show. And Ferris is the Chief Innovation Officer at MDC. Which a lot of these holding companies don't have things like chief innovation officers, so it's kind of an unusual gig.
Yes.
Pretty cool. And you were originally with McCann, and before that, Naked.
That's right. Yep.
And headed up their technology strategy over there.
Yeah, kind of hybrid roles of thinking about ideas that use technology and then doing strategies that support them.
So just first of all, congratulations. I noticed today that MDC stock was rated #1 of all advertising and media companies again.
Yeah, we're pretty proud of that. This year, number one. This year, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, we've been the #1 media stock in the world.
Which is, I remember someone showing me an article of you, and you're like 30 years old, and you're starting this company, and it says you want to be the Martin Sorrell of Canada. And now you're kind of just the Miles Nadell of Canada and North America, which is pretty cool.
Well, we've been very privileged to be associated with great thought leaders and people that are doing brilliant work, and the success we've enjoyed as a business is a byproduct of the great work that our partner firms do.
Now Ferris, is McCann who sued you guys?
Yes.
Is it because of Ferris, basically?
I don't know what instigated, but I guess they felt that there were a lot of clients and a lot of people leaving, and we were the beneficiary of some brilliant talent that came, and we settled it very quickly without any damage. It was a suit that should never have been initiated.
Yeah. Do you believe that long term you can sue your way to success?
No, I mean, not at all.
Yeah.
In a talent revolution, ultimately, nobody can be recruited that's not recruitable.
Right.
So the only thing that matters is how well you treat your talent, what kind of environment in which you engage them and empower them to do great work, and give them an opportunity to be rich and famous, and they'll stay. And if not, the universe will unfold the way it should.
Many, many years ago, you made a bet on marketing, on advertising, and your bet was it's going to be about the talent, right? And you positioned your company around that idea, and you also made a bet that the best talent would be leaving the large multinationals and it would be moving into smaller agencies. And it seems like that was a good bet.
Well, you're being humble. It was really you and Chuck that gave me the information at the time that made us believe that we've gone from the industrial revolution to the communication revolution to the talent revolution of creativity. That what clients cared about ultimately, that all that mattered, what we figured out in the last 5 years, is that they didn't care about how many people, how many services, how many offices, how many countries. They cared about your ability to do brilliant work that made brands famous, that ultimately drove return on investment. And what we realized is the people who've defined this industry are great entrepreneurs, and they were passionate people who knew how to do brilliant advertising. And the whole notion of talent, what we think has been emasculated from the industry, is the passion and energy of talent. So if we focused on what made the industry successful, what made our partner firms successful, and we invested in that, A, we'd have a durable competitive advantage, and B, we thought we could do something that would, give us an opportunity to be more successful than others. And it seems to be building on the momentum. You know, it's getting easier to find.
Yeah.
And I would say that, you know, in terms of what we call institutionalized mediocrity, I think a lot of the large firms have lost the DNA, the culture of entrepreneurship, the passion, and the focus and the culture of treating the talent of like they should be, which is the most valuable asset of the organization.
Yeah.
It's always
do
been
you,
that.
Yeah. Do you find that true?
Well, there's kind of that inherent tension in how large consolidated companies want to operate, which is very professional. But we're not lawyers and accountants.
You look like a lawyer or an accountant.
I try and project that
You're
image
not.
as strong
You're
as
saying
possible.
you're not.
Though I love numbers, obviously, and the legalities of loophole and being sued. But I just think that there's a sort of tension between kind of this rigor and conservatism that consolidation tends to bring, and the fact that it's an industry driven by capricious, creative people who want to do awesomeness, you know. And it's like there's always been a sort of rubbing point, I think, with the big.
Well, I would say two things. First of all, Ferris is very humble. He actually does have a master's degree in English from Cambridge.
From Oxford.
Sorry.
Cambridge, no, we hate Cambridge.
Oxford.
Yes.
And when I first met him, I was like, wow, what an extraordinary, you know, dichotomy, you know, because you wouldn't necessarily by physical attribute look at him like that. But when you talk to him.
But when I look at him, I see Oxford.
But that's why
PhD.
You're one of the 50 most influential people in the
My brother got
average.
the PhD. I'm always jealous.
Yeah.
That's why you were the, you know, executive creative director of the decade, and I'm not.
People in suits just make me really nervous. Remember that time?
Yes, I remember that.
You came to the agency and you had a suit on, and I think I suggested you're going to scare people if you show up like
Actually,
that.
that's when we went to the diner afterwards, and you said never wear a suit if you ever want to come back, and so that's why I said. But it's an interesting point. Ferris talked about this. You and I had this conversation, which is what makes this industry unique is the combination. It's art and commerce.
Art and commerce,
right?
Yeah.
And it's the ability to manage that relationship that is really critical to long-term success. But the question is, what do you make as your priority? We think that we make the work, the creativity, and the art the priority, and we think that the financial success, the commerce side of it, is the byproduct.
But I wonder how many industries. I mean, we work in advertising. It's easy to see the art in advertising in some ways.
It's right there. Yeah.
It's easy to say, well, the talent are the people that work with the pictures and with the words and the writers, but I think that talent, and I might be wrong, talent as you see it and as you invest in it, you're not thinking of it that way, right? And especially now, it's evolving. There's more. Other industries should look at what they do as a combination of art and commerce.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I don't think many of them aren't.
A great quote, I think you sent it around. Andy Warhol said that the best art is doing business well, or doing business well is the highest form of art. And I think they're linked inextricably. You know, art is valuable. You know, pure art that's not commercially motivated.
Why is
valuable for certain reasons?
Why has it been devalued though? Corporately, as entities grow, there's an impetus to try to say no, it's not that. It's this structure.
Right.
Well, two things I would say. First of all, Bill Bernbach says, I think he said this. It's not creative if it doesn't sell. And there is much greater focus on driving financial performance, on return on marketing investment. I've said recently...
But those things are not necessarily not an art, is what I'm saying.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think you know, the most brilliant campaigns are those that were not only the most creative, they not only elicited the emotional response between the consumer and the brand, but they drove the greatest increase in sales, market share, profitability, performance.
But I've worked with media people that are artists, and I've worked with media people that are not artists, and there's nothing more, or media buys that were not artistic, there's nothing more frustrating as a creative person than to see your baby go out there in the wrong way to the wrong people and know, I mean, you could feel it, you're like, it's not going to work. We're in the wrong places.
Right. I think there's a number of different overlays with media choice. Like I worked at Naked and we were a channel planning company. And you've got to start with, is it the right channel to achieve business results? But overlay, is it the right channel for the idea to live? You know, there's a combination of filters you have to apply. If it's never going to work, then it shouldn't be there, but it should feel...
Our most brilliant partners are not only brilliantly creative, they're outstanding business people. They have inherently outstanding judgment, and they are very strategic, and they understand that ultimately their job is to help build a client's business. So our most talented partners really have that great balance between art and commerce.
How do you okay, you partner with talent, and then there's a big trick here, I think, which is how do you keep great talent motivated? Basically, that's the end of the question. How do you keep great talent motivated?
Well, I think the first thing is...
Someone said to you the other day, what are you doing with Alex because he's so motivated?
Well,
and I don't know what you're doing to me.
Well, the first thing we make sure we do is we make sure we don't do anything that will interfere in what makes them motivated. So in other words, they're already very motivated people. We're very respectful, and we understand and focus on the elements that make them passionate about what they do. People make a conscious decision to go into the advertising business. They love the craft. They love
also the media, I find.
Yeah,
and so go to the media side, tend to find it by a weird route.
And I think the most important thing that we do is we say, first of all, we tell them we love them.
Yeah.
We give them constant reinforcement.
We need that.
We empower them. And we basically say, we're privileged by our association, and you are our brand essence. So that's number one. And number two is...
You could pay us almost nothing if you just did this all the time.
Egos need feeding, man. That's key. It's the way it is.
That's key with any industry.
Social stuff,
But it's true with any industry.
Yeah, totally.
But I think the most important thing that we do is we try and help unlock the other ideas that they have in their mind of things that they are really excited and passionate about that they haven't had a chance to pursue.
Yeah.
Whether it's your book or your speaking, whether it's all your ideas as the Chief Innovation Officer, whether it's Fearless or whatever it is, we say, let's do that.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
And
let's
you
pursue
do that.
these
Every
things.
time I meet with you, you are pulling that stuff out. I noticed that you're curious about it. What is it? What is it you want to do that you haven't been able to do? And I don't know, you've worked in other places. You've probably seen other structures, other CEOs, and I've always, not always felt, recently realized he was a photographer.
Right.
Which
very,
I think changes the kind of CEO you are, right?
So
he's an artist.
He doesn't come from, let's say that other holding company CEOs traditionally have segued from finance directly into running multinational advertising holding companies.
Right.
They don't come from any part of the craft often, so there's a kind of disconnect there, I feel, that they don't really necessarily get under the skin of it, potentially.
Yeah.
In order to be great at something, Malcolm Forbes said, if you love what you do, you'll never work another day in your life. I find I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I work with brilliant people. They're doing things that are reinventing pop culture. Everything that we do is something that my kids can relate to.
Yeah.
And it's really fun and exciting to see a brand video that we're creating for a client, to see an end product, to look at an experiential marketing campaign. You've got to love the craft.
But you get off on the product. Yeah, you're getting off on
Absolutely.
the product, the things that are made. And I think
There's a pride in it,
there's probably a lot of people that just are getting off on the numbers, which maybe that's a good segue back to the numbers. This segment has not been seeing a lot of love from Wall Street, and now that's kind of changing. Ever since we've met, I've had people whispering in my ears, MDC this, MDC that, and then, I'd sit down with you and you'd be like, here's what's going to happen with the stock, right? We're going to be able to go from here to here. We're going to be able to do these things. We're going to take the company. And you've always been right, and they've always been wrong.
Well, wealth is created by being bold early and right, but bold and early doesn't make up for being wrong. And as I've said all along, as Buffett said, in the short term, the market's a voting machine. Over the long term, it's a weighing machine. We've always felt that we were on our way to getting scale, that ultimately, if we did the most brilliant work that produced the best results, it would ultimately result in superior financial performance.
Right.
As you guys gave me that T-shirt for our 30th anniversary, you are what your record says you are, Bill Parcells. Well, for 5 years straight, we've had twice the growth of any other holding company. We've had better margin expansion. We've had better free cash flow. Last year, we were the only firm whose profitability grew. I think that's a reflection of the fact that we're attracting better people who are doing better work.
Yeah.
So the share price is merely a reflection of the work we're doing, and most importantly, its impact for our clients.
And through this, you've also positioned MDC into a place where right now you've got a lot of money and people know you're out there and you're acquiring things. At a time when most people don't have the fundamentals to do that, they don't have the ability to do that, whether they want to or not.
Yeah.
So if someone's out there, how do they? You can answer. You can say whatever you want. But I think for people who are watching, how do I get your attention? If I've got something that I want to be part of this MDC network, how do I get your attention?
So there's two things I would say. I'd go backwards on the comment that you made because I think it's really critical. I think our most valuable asset is not the excess $200 million of cash that we have today. I think it's the quality of talent that we've attracted, the motivation of the people and our partners within the network, and the brand essence and what they espouse to people. Our most competitive strength and asset right now is having people like you that are our brand evangelists. And we've got 14,000 of those people. That's the most unreplicatable asset.
Right.
The fact that we have cash to invest behind them and to find other firms and people like that makes it even more attractive, because there are other firms with capital, but nobody's got the buzz we have, the passion we have, the fun we have, and really a truly credible, defined culture about entrepreneurship in our DNA.
Yeah.
We look at each and every opportunity that's brought to us. Because you never know when something wonderful is going to come and where it's going to come from. And the beauty of where we are in the cycle is, you could be bringing us the next Google that's never been created yet. Mm-hmm. So send us your ideas. We're very receptive,
Tweet into Fearless QA if you have any questions for these guys. So that probably brings up a question for both of you. Where is it going now? Where's the industry going? Where do you see the opportunities? Where would you like to spend your money?
I think things are moving, and convergence is a word that gets misused a lot of the time, I think, but I think the communications industry is smashing itself into the technology industry really hard right now, which is fascinating for me, because I love these two sides, Traditionally, we've had very, very comfortable relationships with media and kind of distribution channels for our ideas and words and pictures, like you said before. I think the stuff which is happening now doesn't fit in the containers of the past very well, and it takes different kinds of skill sets, which is why all kinds of jobs are appearing in different companies that have these weird new titles that didn't exist 5 years ago or 2 years ago, because there's an obvious need, because the context is shifting so rapidly, Mm-hmm. People are still wanting to be entertained, but I think a lot of the stuff that you guys do here and that we're trying to do involves earning the attention that we used to buy from people.
Right.
Being more useful than just paying for programming and stuff,
Look, for us, it's about investing in talent, new talent, people like Ferris. His principal focus is at Kirschbaum, Bond, Senecal and Partners. Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had a privileged ability to attract unbelievable talent there, and I think what they've done, what you've done, is put digital and analytics at the epicenter of the brand, of the business, and be completely media agnostic.
That's the crucial thing, I think, because digital inside existing structures often becomes a discipline, a department, a channel in which you can disperse symbols like we used to disperse them previously in broadcast channels. But it's not. It fundamentally isn't that. It's a suite of channels and platforms and tactics, and more importantly, it's the beginning of a new kind of behavioral grammar whereby customers and companies can connect in different ways that are mutually satisfying,
Yeah.
But it's not enough to go, so we've done this stuff, and what's the digital version of this stuff? That's not what I'm interested in doing, It's like thinking about these companies need to change who they are.
Well, and when you talk about talent, too, it's bringing in a whole different kind of talent that's turned on by very different things, too, right? A lot of the digital talent doesn't get excited about narrative necessarily, right?
Right.
They're not the things that a traditional creative might, or even a traditional advertising person.
Totally. I mean, I think you said this before, that maybe the narrative metaphor for brands needs to be supplemented, if not replaced, with a gaming metaphor or a systems metaphor or an experience metaphor. They're all relevant ways to express how these abstract notions interact with people.
Yeah.
But just the same way you described that, I think the definition of talent is a much broader definition.
Right.
When we think about talent, we think about creative talent.
Right.
And that's obviously critical, and it's the epicenter of sort of what makes brands famous, etc. But when I think of talent, I think of it in the broad spectrum of understanding all aspects of art and commerce, and the changing dynamic, and the ability to understand the integration of technology and media and telecommunications and art and commerce,
so
etc.
you just made an acquisition that goes into this new group that you've got.
The Performance Marketing Services Group. look, our fundamental belief is that we've gone from being in a business where we do great creative that wins awards to then being in a media agnostic creative environment. And now we're in the business, I think, of being an investment management business, that clients give you dollars to invest.
Sure.
And with this changing media landscape and the fragmentation of media, they're saying, what ideas should we be looking at? How do we, make our brand famous, and how do we actually drive it to the marketplace? And our job ultimately is to drive incremental return on marketing investment. Those are words that really, you got to say what you mean what you say, and do what you say you're going to do in that regard. Because clients now, after the recession, the famous expression, 50% of my advertising doesn't work. I just don't know which 50.
One,
right.
Which 50. Yeah.
So now I think, as a going forward, everybody wants to know about that.
Right.
We created the Performance Marketing Services Group around the ideas that clients want to be able to, target in advance to understand what they should be doing.
Yeah.
Producing work that they think is going to have a higher return on marketing investment, and ultimately, measuring that impact afterwards, and then investing
Not even
behind.
afterwards. I think now you can measure it during.
Optimize in real time.
Yes.
That's the exciting part.
think,
is you don't have to make those poor buys, because you can look at the buy and you can change it hourly.
And that's the interesting, there's a tension almost, in the sense that if you don't have a business reason to allocate assets to a specific channel, then you've got to ask as a partner, what are you doing? It's like, why do you recommend using TV or not?
Right.
But then beyond the paid media space, there's all the kinds of things that you're doing with earned and owned media, creating channels or creating services or creating platforms that don't really fit into the measurement models of paid media conversion and that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a whole new way to
Do you think that this
about
whole,
things.
You see this happen, I've seen it happen before, where it breaks down into art and science almost, right? So there's a lot of people out there pushing and selling the science.
Yeah.
They aren't typically blending it. Usually the scientists want to say, hey, good news, advertising's become all science, or this whole category has become
that was in
all science.
1932,
right?
was that dude who wrote that book, marketing is a direct response science. And it's not, fundamentally,
It's
because
just not.
channel choice isn't enough, because it depends what you do with it.
Right.
And that bit you can't measure properly. You can't project
No.
this work is going to be amazing or not,
Yeah.
based on a model.
This art and this gut and this other aspect of talent, I mean, there's talented scientists and then there's talented artists. And they're still going to have to be brought together. And I think that's will be a challenge, actually, for
There's
you.
a lot of translation
Even with
needs.
creating within the holding company, you're starting to suggest maybe they're two separate things, right?
Well, there's two things. We sort of tried to get rid of this holding company, not only
I
image,
shouldn't
but
say holding
operate.
company. What do I say?
We're a strategic partner. Because at the end of the day,
Sounds cool.
What we're in
I like
the same business as you guys are in. We're in the business of providing services to help our clients grow. The only difference is our clients are our partners, right? They're the ones driving it. I think the thing is, I think everybody wants to have a aha moment where they say, okay, all our dollars are going here.
Right.
I believe there's so much change that is happening and going to happen that we as an organization need to invest behind many different plans and channels and ideas, and you don't really know which ones are going to work. We do know categorically there are some trends that like PR, social media, blogging, big area of growth,
Right.
for sure.
And you're investing in PR, which has, I think, been a surprise to some people.
I said 2 years ago that someone would become the Crispin Porter Bogusky of public relations. I said that it was an entrepreneurial industry that was going to go through transformation, that the big monolithic legacy firms were going to lose their lock on the big Fortune 100 clients, because the smartest thinking in PR, just like advertising, was coming from the smaller, more entrepreneurial firms that were more nimble.
What is the smartest thinking in PR?
Well, it depends on the specific brand, but experiential, big part of it. Product placement, branded entertainment. All of those things are important, and the other sort of macro thing was data analytics. But in PR, the people, right now, think about what's going on. First of all, to get your message heard in the media is very difficult. I mean, people are bombarded more than ever.
But also,
and that was kind of your point originally, that if the work doesn't get talked about, isn't that kind of a waste?
Yeah.
And now, I mean, so that piece of work, The Best Job in the World, that Australian campaign that Sapient Nitro did, it won it in the most number of different categories it can. It's a PR campaign. It's a pure PR campaign, but it's being rewarded as an ad campaign because kind of what's the difference?
Because you can't
you
tell.
know, like
you can't tell. Yeah.
But even think about, Whopper Freakout, which was the campaign in the year, I think last year. It was as much social media and viral
campaign.
as it was anything else. Look at what happened with Domino's. When you guys, changed the product, well, the amount of social media and PR that came of it made it, $300 million worth of, free exposure.
It also changed. The thing about PR is it changes the conversation. When something moves out of marketing into public relations and gets reported on, it's seen by people as something real. Like, oh, this is that thing.
There's an
that I read
incremental
about.
third party recognition endorsement. Yes.
But also, it's an endorsement beyond that. This is an important campaign or this is an important company. It's that this is something we're all talking
that's
about.
worth talking about.
Yeah.
Well,
and,
to go specifically, when you think about what happened with Domino's, the empirical evidence was tremendous. But then when you had, Jeannie Mose on CNN talking about it,
right,
and then you had Jim Cramer on Mad Money, and
he
showing
watches the show. Shout out.
Showing the growth in sales, growth in profitability, right. And then you had was it Jon Stewart or
no, the other one.
And he said, God bless America and God bless Domino's Pizza, and then
Colbert,
Stephen Colbert. I mean, it was amazing. Then all of a sudden, and then I think that the New Yorker, they said, well, the Taliban should do a Domino's, and so
well, and they said that the GOP should learn from Domino's,
yes.
And there was all sorts of stuff.
See, there's like a spectrum, isn't there? Like PR back in the day, like 5 years ago when everything was different. There was kind of that stunty culture hacking kind of PR, which is like, this thing I'll do because it's designed to hack culture, right?
Yeah.
But then it's more now, I think, about shifting the corporate behavior and expressing that in different ways.
Well, I think one of the things that's changed so much is you used to you had to take your story and give it to somebody else and hope someone else would take it.
Very good point. Yeah.
Now, there's so much social media, you have the ability to just put your story out there.
Totally.
Right? And then it's just a matter of, is it interesting enough? Mm-hmm. So there seems to me to be a shift in PR, and I've tried to encourage it here, which is a shift of thinking from damage control and releases and trying to get your story on someone else's platform to more programming.
Yeah,
like
it's content strategy.
Yeah.
But it's programming. Like you can think of your brand the way a network thinks about their
because
lineup.
The internet disintermediates you and allows you to have direct access. So you've got to say things that are worth listening to. Not just things that will hook into whichever news organs you want to play with. You know?
I think you're right about PR though. I think it's going to shift radically.
And the other thing that we're seeing is you always said to me, if we're going to do something, show me what it looks like in a press release first.
Right.
And it really does get you very focused. I think PR has the same problem with advertising. They're just bad words to describe actually what's happening in the services and the expertise. Like,
public relations is a good phrase. It's just the industry's become a
because they associate it with.
Also, I think that if you look at public relations firms, even the ones that don't specialize in damage control, they've got a damage control mentality.
Yeah,
I've worked with public relations. Yeah, it's exactly. We don't want that in there. We wouldn't want that. It's all about protecting.
I'll send the editor a suit and get that story pulled, and that's kind of what it was.
It's very much about because there's risk reward, right? In all things, there's risk reward. PR has been generally with PR talent about mitigating risk, which has been mitigating any ability to have great reward.
And some of the most successful PR campaigns actually. They made the brand resonate in pop culture terms with both good and bad, right?
Chuck Porter walking by.
Charles?
What's up, Chuck?
So, I mean, if you think about the new Coke Classic situation, started off as a disaster, ended up being an unbelievable success.
Who knows, really? That's how it was
isn't that classic
spun.
deprivation strategy, isn't it? Like, didn't the Whopper Freakout have a similar kind of...
I just think the Coke one was totally by accident.
Yeah, no, I don't think anyone's that smart or that bold, frankly.
But look, there's lots of campaigns where we've had negative publicity about it, but it's been an amazing success.
Well, if you don't have any negative publicity, you've mitigated the risk to the point that you will have no reward.
Right.
I believe.
Right.
But that's the thing about the PR, which is historically manipulating image as it's dispersed via media that you don't control, right? But if you believe the internet forces radical transparency and makes companies semi-permeable, that there's stuff leaking in and out all the time, kind of, it's a separate thing, and it's kind of, you've got to be true to who you are because you're visible through the fingers of the wall, the internet. So it's...
Well, I remember when we did Safe Happens, right? The Volkswagen stuff.
That was cool.
And it was very controversial. You weren't allowed to show cars crashing on television.
You were.
The
There were
PSA
certain
is that,
networks
right?
that didn't want to. And,
But there was all kinds of negative publicity about it, and yet we were selling more and more cars.
20% up the next day.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And so
Because
if
you're really playing on a cultural lie, right? Which is, you can only show car crashes with crash test dummies or like swerving to avoid. Those were the two
Right. You
cultural.
can definitely see it coming.
That's
It's
what
like-
you were allowed to do. And so if you did something else, it was a cultural shock that people were feeling, which created the controversy, which created the conversation. But you want that.
absolutely.
Because in the end, it was more honest. We're worried about crashing in our cars. We're not worried about avoiding accidents. That's
Look,
not our big concern.
Think about from our perspective, from MDC's perspective. Everybody said we want all of our people to have a vested interest in the success of our client's business. Okay, everybody said it. We were the first ones who said, let's create a stock exchange index. And we did it first with Kirschbaum von Senecal and Partners. We said, we're going to buy a share of stock for every single employee every year for every one of our clients, and we're going to track that daily. And so we have an index. And actually, the index, the KBS&P stock index,
it's a mutual fund. It's a real fund. It's cool.
It simulates a mutual fund. And
I'm not a finance guy.
That's
Yeah.
right. But
I shouldn't say things I don't understand.
most
Does that exist at Crispin?
not yet. But we.
Are you going to do it?
I want to look to do it throughout the whole network because
Cool idea.
it's actually
It's cool.
outperforming the index. It's outperforming the
Right.
S&P, the Dow Jones, etc.
But also, I think, I genuinely believe stock price
But there was some
is one of the
sorry,
key
from-
measures.
And from a PR perspective, we got more recognition
Yeah.
of people saying, "Hey, they really
Believe
say
what they
they
do
mean."
makes
and,
a
and they
difference.
put their money where
Stock
their mouth
price, as you well know, it's, as you say, in the short term, it's a voting game. So of all the financial measures, it responds faster than even short mid-term sales.
Yeah.
Because it's all based on emotion and
Yeah.
belief in the future.
Right.
So it responds really well to what we do in a much sort of shorter time frame than
Yeah, the reason why the market always is 6 months ahead of the economy is because it's the precursor to what will happen. So, a valuation is the present value of its future earnings
discounted
stream.
cash flow analysis.
Yeah.
But I don't understand what that means,
question
but I've
from
heard the expression.
Lewis Sock for Miles. What new agency models are you interested in?
Well, we're the models that are going to work. The models, and the most important thing is, do we believe in the talent? Do we believe that these are people who understand the balance between art and commerce? That they have a proven track record of doing brilliant work that we think is going to cut through the clutter and clients will buy?
Yeah.
And do we believe that they have the right cultural fit, right, with MDC?
Yeah.
And that they have a plan to grow their business. No one knows.
We never had a plan to grow our business, though.
No, but what we had. No, but what attracted to me to CPB in 2001, I thought the Truth campaign was the best advertising I'd ever seen in my life, and I said, even though they're a small firm, that brilliant work has to get recognition. And then we got very lucky because you won BMW Mini, which I thought was as brilliant as any work, and then went from there. But there was actually, Jeff Hicks did give us a 5-year plan. He gave us
did?
yeah, he did. He
I
gave us
told
a
him
5-year
not to.
plan.
You didn't see it,
So
right?
We blew through it in about the first 24 months. We haven't
Yeah.
seen a plan since, but when things are up 15-fold,
He was probably
you don't really worry.
excited, having an MBA and everything, that you even asked for a plan. So
When you believe in the management team and you, in your gut, know that these are people that are going to redefine the model of the future, you need to have the confidence to invest behind that, and it'll work.
yeah. So, but it's a gut thing.
Absolutely. Because if you're talking about the model of the future, unless you're clairvoyant, you really don't know.
You don't know. Right.
No.
Particularly because things are changing faster, not slower.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the rate of change
And what
is
matters the
exponential.
most to you if you're looking to partner with somebody? Is it their intellect? Is it their
Passion, drive, and as Ray Kroc said, persistence and determination alone is omnipotent. The people that are prepared to work the hardest of my rules of partnership, who have the passion, dedication, and will to sacrifice for the common mission.
Yeah. What are your rules?
Alex gave me the T-shirt to commemorate our 30th anniversary, which is our sort of our rules of partnership.
Number 1, only partner with someone who you would want to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner with a second time. This is good. Number 2, only partner with someone you like, admire, and respect. 3, that really makes me feel good that you like and admire and respect me. Only partner with someone you trust enough to make the executor of your estate. That's a big one.
Yeah.
That's a big
Key.
one. 4, and do you really ask yourself these questions? Do you really say, okay, could I do that with that person?
Absolutely.
4, only partner with someone with whom you would want to spend a long weekend on a small boat, a small cabin, or in a small ranch. You added that for me, the ranch part.
Can you get a small ranch?
I think my ranch is decent size. Only partner with someone who shares the same passion, dedication, and willingness to sacrifice and accomplish the common mission. Only partner with someone who has the human compassion gene. That one also, to me, was like a real surprise when you sent me your list.
Well, because, I guess it's a personal thing, but as I've said this all along, I think the only thing you leave on the face of the earth as a legacy is not your business.
It's not going to last.
No.
You don't think in 1,000 years MDC partners will still be around?
That would be so awesome.
No. But
it would kind of suck.
But I do.
It'd be a very different kind of thing, maybe.
But, we do say 100 years from now, no one will ever remember the car you drove, the house you lived in, or for that matter, how much money you had in your bank account. But the world may be a different place if you've made a difference in the life of a young person. Hopefully, over the course of our careers, we will make a difference in the life of thousands and thousands of people. I mean, how many interns do we have at CPB this summer?
30, I don't know.
Okay, we'll have over 100 at MDC overall.
Yeah.
Why can't we have 500?
Yeah.
Why can't we have 1,000?
I'll take some more. That's cool.
Yeah. We all need them.
Yeah.
And so that's.
Definitely
I think at the end of the day, if you have really good values and beliefs, then you'll attract great talent, big T talent.
And a lot of this financial stuff probably goes over the heads of kids there's a lot of students that watch. What advice would you have?
Hi, kids.
For students, what would you suggest they do if they're getting into the business?
Well, first of all, if you don't love what you do and you're not prepared to work 80 or 100 hours a week, you should find something else to do.
Yeah.
This is a business where you really need to be full on. If you're not full on.
But is it? I've struggled with this word work my whole career because I never had to do any.
Right.
But I had no other way to describe where I was going to be. And what I was putting against my hours.
We
right?
say if you're not prepared to put 100 hours a week to the fearless mission, the revolution, we call it at KBSP, the redefinition of the right model for the future. If you're not prepared to do whatever it takes.
But when you say it that way, it sounds horrible. But when you live in it. And so my new term, I call it monetized play. I tell my son, I'm like, look, there's 2 kinds of play. There's one where we go ride bikes. That's play, regular play. And then the rest of your life, you should have this other thing called monetized play.
Yeah.
And then, 80 or 100 hours of monetized play, big deal. Like
it's got to be
work
fun,
all
man.
the time.
It's got to be fun.
Yeah, the people that really get it, they're like you. They don't even think about what they're doing. They're just doing. In other words, for them, work is not work, play is not play. It's all life, right? It's just one cohesive life.
But if you don't have that feeling, but in school, can you know that you're going to have that feeling too? I remember being in school. I don't know that I could know. It feels like you have to jump into something, but then be open to move, right? You've had a circuitous career, I'm sure.
Very much so, yeah. I mean, I started out as a management consultant. I did wear a suit briefly. It didn't really suit me. I looked a lot like a kid wearing his dad's clothes, and I didn't.
Felt funny.
And then I became a journalist, and before that, got into other things. But you got to be flexible, and I think things are changing so fast that there is an oft-used maxim that if you're at school now, the things you learn in your first couple of years will be obsolete by the fourth.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the challenges with craft schools, which is like they've got to keep up constantly.
Yeah.
And I really think it's crucial that we build in technology and kind of future model thinking into these
There's
things.
a great question, though. Do you think a better model could be if you built PR and advertising and they work more closely together? One model that's both. Now, I think we sort of have that,
Absolutely.
but as dramatically as might be suggested
we
here.
think this concept of above the line and below the line is non-existent.
Crazy.
We believe it is a completely holistic.
It's a lineless
environment.
There is no line. The line is a dot.
It's all about what's the brilliant idea, what's going to make that idea famous.
Yeah.
And absolutely, and I think we do believe that the model of the future is much more focused on the ability to seamlessly, make brands famous through whatever means is going to PR, advertising, viral, digital, experiential.
Everything communicates. It's all part of the same. From a consumer's point of view, from a person's point of view, there is no differentiation. It's all the brand doing stuff in the world.
Yeah.
See, I think I was going to say the problem.
This is my show. Can I?
Oh, sorry. So the problem is that the models that were built predicated on what was the best way to maximize the number of separate profit centers that a holding company could create to maximize revenue and profitability from the client.
And you never pressured us to spin digital out of CPB when financially that would have made a lot of sense.
Because it's like the stock market. Most people are sheep. They really don't know what they're doing. They don't know the difference between preferred stock and live stock, so they see if something goes up, they should buy it,
I don't.
Which is completely contrary. Our notion is get to know your partners, take the time to understand and really believe in their vision for the future. And if so, invest behind that and don't second guess it, because it's their brilliance. It's their understanding of this changing landscape that's going to differentiate them. So why would we, as a financially oriented organization, do anything other than to say, how can we help?
It would be cuckoo pants to do anything else. Can I go back to the idea of who you are and what you've made yourself into? It's eclectic, right?
It's amazing.
And you can monetize who you are really well. I've got friends and students that I meet who are extremely eclectic, and I look at, they'll put together a presentation of here's who I am, and I'm envious. I wish I was them. I wish I could do all that they did, but I know they can't get a job with it because they aren't a single thing. All of us, just all of these companies, the world needs this eclectic individual to go to what's next, right? But we don't have a good process for bringing them in.
Super
So
hard.
what do I do?
So I was talking about this
kid?
recently with some lovely people from recruitment places, and they're like, big systems need modularity. So you need to be a creative or a planner or an account person or a producer. And the people that are most interesting, the ones that are going to drive the future, are hybrids, and they don't want to be either. So you get these new kinds of kids like creative strategists. Yeah. You're like, okay, well, so you kind of do ideas and you can do the thinking bit and you understand that business is important, that's great, But you're right, there's not a lot of
They go around interviewing and
them.
people say, you should be this.
Yeah.
And then, then they
the
go meet
lines
that person.
don't feed properly into the right departments,
Yeah.
And it is hard to sort of say, I want to create my own job and I'll do this certain kind of thing for you and I think it has value.
Yeah.
But when you're just starting, that's really tricky.
How does MDC as an organization begin to be one of the first to have a way in for those hybrids? I think that's critically important.
So we've made a huge seismic investment, probably $15 million this year, between investing in talent, leadership, development, and training at the corporate group, with Barbara Cree, with Amy Miller, with Megan Schlicker, with Joanne Kaufman, etc., and then with talent at the operating partnership level. And we're just saying, why don't you invest ahead of the curve? If you find brilliant people, go bring them in. If you find great young people that have talent but not a lot of training, we should be a place where we've got enough success that we can invest and give them the opportunity to learn their way into a real position.
I just think somehow you're going to have to encourage the people that are in those positions, those gatekeeper positions. When it's me, it's easy, right? I could say, I don't know what you are, but you're really smart, and we have a process for you finding your way. Yeah. And we've done that. But when it's a couple layers within the organization, that doesn't happen. And even here, I'll see kids trying to get in who are definitely brilliant, but there is no job that will fit the definition of who they are.
Yeah. I think it's going to get easier right now. Going into the recession, it became tougher because everybody was fighting for fewer dollars, greater scope for less money, etc. Now that we're coming out of this,
AR26K tweets, what are they talking about? That's one of my. We've only gotten that. That's the first time we've gotten that.
What are we talking about?
What are they talking about?
So look,
Did he come in late? Did he
for
just
us,
arrive?
but it is a really
previously on Phyllis Q&A.
when you want to find great people. How
this
do we
man
bring
is a media mogul. He owns the most successful advertising and marketing. It's not a holding company. It's
network
network in the world, and we're talking about that.
I'm just hanging out.
But the point though is
Ferris is a cool dude.
It is a balance because we can't hire every brilliant person we meet where there isn't a defined job because otherwise we wouldn't run a successful business. So it is a balancing act. Yeah. But it's a lot easier to be more aggressive when you know the economy is coming off the bottom. You know the advertising spend is coming off the bottom. You know our momentum of new business is coming.
There is that flexibility because old systems protect their own. There's a conservatism built into rigid systems. They calcify at a certain scale, I think.
Yeah.
And I've had many experiences of people talking to me and go, kind of want to hire developers. I personally think developers are crucial. I like people that build code. I think they're artists in a different kind of way.
Absolutely.
But somebody would say, are they a creative director? Are they a copywriter or an art director? I'm like, no. No. They're different. They make different kinds of things, and they're awesome things too, but they don't fit into your, boxes.
It's funny that I like generalists. More and more I like generalists. People that can actually play in lots of different areas.
Or just do stuff, who just, their tendency is to do things themselves rather than to send a bunch of emails saying, who else can be doing this?
Who can do this, exactly.
Right, I'm like, just learn how to do it and then do it,
Exactly.
There's a good question there. What have we learned from our successes or failures in the past?
From Dan Nelson.
I think what we've learned is that there is no one guaranteed way to succeed in this business or any business. And you really don't know, especially when businesses are in their infancy or younger, how they'll turn out and can they balance that art of commerce.
Right.
Or if they're a mature business, can they evolve to the changing landscape? Can they make the adaptation, right? And CPB is an amazing success story, but it was a 15-year-old agency when you got involved. And it was always innovative, but it went through...
No, it was terrible. At the very, very beginning, it was a terrible agency.
I can't say that.
Oh, no, it was.
I saw some of the early local work in Miami and Hoopla. It's beautiful, man. It's great. Beautiful print copy,
Before that,
I didn't see that stuff. That wasn't
but
there was a time it wasn't terrible. It was the third best agency in Miami.
Right.
But think about the transformations. I mean, of investing in planning, investing in digital, investing in viral, all those things. I mean, you couldn't necessarily predict that unless you believed that Alex and Chuck and Jeff and the organization just understood where the world was going. And the other thing
is just luck.
Well, I think there's two things. I think winners replicate their success. So we didn't have 100% success. But we learned and we regrouped and we redefined our route. And
I've talked a lot lately about don't learn from your failures, learn from your successes. And it upsets some people. Honestly, I see some people really upset by this notion because it's, I guess it's somewhat delusional. We call it positive or delusional positivity. And I think we say delusional because it's easier to come to that way. It's not really delusional. It's just positive.
It's choosing to focus on certain aspects of your existence.
But it is a mistake. I really do believe it is a mistake to try to study your failures so much. I think people spend many hours with their failures and very few.
Well, you don't know how these decisions are often being made, and it's not always based on the stuff you get to see or control. There are bits that you don't have access to.
Oh, if you lost a pitch, it's like,
right,
you have no idea.
There are things that, and they're completely out of your control. I would say two things. You said about luck. I think, there's the great expression, I believe in luck. I find the harder I work, the luckier I get. I think if luck is about preparation and opportunity come together, you should only focus on preparation. You shouldn't focus on luck because it's something you have no control over.
Well, you can't focus on.
It's a great Calvin and Hobbes. I love Calvin and Hobbes. It's the best thing ever. It's a great Calvin and Hobbes cartoon where they're talking about Calvin is saying the secret apparently to life is to being at the right place at the right time. So I'm going to assume the right place is the comic book store and just wait there.
Right.
Eventually,
it
will be right.
You know what I mean? It's like I think that's you have to make some bets.
But in terms of this, you always said we try a lot of things. Campaign, a lot of ideas.
Right. Yeah.
And then we test, we start working, and we see what the impact is, and we invest behind our winners. Mm-hmm. Well, that's exactly what we do. we see the people that seem to consistently have better on-field performance of balancing art and commerce, and we put more of our resources behind their growth.
So you do look back at the portfolio and say, okay, who's outperforming the market here, and then you might have a conversation and say, what part of your dreams are we not fulfilling right now that we can get behind?
Well, we have that conversation with everybody. We just put more dollars to work behind the people. You know, you're going to invest more behind Kobe Bryant and Alex Rodriguez and Sidney Crosby than against someone who's not, got the same kind of performance.
So, question for both of you guys: the show's, fearless, right? And because I believe that fear is something that gets in the way of your creativity. It gets in the way of innovation. It's something that culturally we've spent a lot of time trying to at least mitigate. You can't get rid of it. So, what are you afraid of? What
I think most accomplished entrepreneurs have a fundamental fear of failure.
Yeah, that's an easy answer.
I was born poor and broke. Well, but no. I mean,
because that one. What's the one that actually you struggle? Because you're obviously not a failure. You're very
I do have a
successful.
great fear. I think the most accomplished people, my favorite movies are the underdog movies. So Rudy, Pursuit of Happiness, The Blind Side,
Do you cry at those things?
I always bawl.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I cry at that kind of stuff.
Brian's
Blind Side
song.
made me
My wife
cry.
can always tell when I'm watching one of those kind of movies because I got
Overcoming
box of Kleenex.
diversity.
But I have a fear of not being able to deliver on expectation. If I make a commitment, I want to be able to.
Disappointing somebody.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And things that are out of my control are the ones that drive me crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So if we can't deliver, but it's not something within my control,
I think
that drives me crazy.
that totally does apply. Like the biggest, scariest things are things that you kind of have. You realise you don't have enough control to deal with. The big, scary environmental magic things. Or there's like things like events, which are smaller versions of the same thing, where you can't manage all the moving parts. You just have to trust that everyone's going to do.
Does your
what they
mind,
think they
like
want.
at night, does your mind, not that you sleep, because I know that you don't.
I do sleep.
You do not
Don't
sleep.
sleep a lot, but I don't.
I don't know when you sleep, because emails come from this guy all the
Yeah.
time, right? But if you did sleep, or when you just fall unconscious, I guess, right? Does your mind dream of all these sort of this thing unraveling, and if this happens, then this will happen, and then it all.
Well, we're obviously in a very strong position, so I'm always in the constant pursuit of building comfort and cushion underneath the business, so we never have to think about that.
Because that's what I think about. And when you were willing to buy into the agency, and I was shocked because I thought, doesn't this guy realize that if this just happens and then this, then there's nothing? Like with
See, I never.
Everything's a house of cards. Like at a certain point,
It's funny, and I guess that's unlike you guys. I have no education, never had a job.
I don't have an education.
Yeah.
What?
But you're not fundamentally unemployable. I am unemployable. Nobody would ever hire me, so I had to create my own business. But, look, my motto in life is dare to dream. It's the name of our boat. And I'm more motivated by the passion to dream and to explore and to try than I am. In other words, what I have a fear is that we lose that passion and desire to try something bold.
Right.
That actually drives me nuts, that if we lose that, more than, okay, we tried something and it didn't work. Look, we're like a baseball player. Ted Williams batted .403 in his best year. We know we're not going to bat 1,000. If we are, like you said, we're not taking enough risks, so it's not possible. I just hope that we're way more successful.
I love that because I think, what are you worth now, personally?
No idea.
All
If you
right.
can count
I
that
thought
high,
you
it's
would
not
maybe
enough.
say. I just threw that in to see
No.
if you'd say.
If you have to ask, you'll never know.
Yeah. You could probably look
But
it
there's
up.
an important Chuck Porter thing. Nobody ever did anything great just for the money.
No one ever did.
You didn't.
But having all that, you have a lot, and I've seen over and over. One of the things I've said is life conspires to beat the rebel out of you, right, or buy it out of you, and you're in a position where you could lose that desire to innovate. Right. I think it's very easy, actually.
one of the
and
things-
it's great that is a fear.
I find it so remarkable that you're kind of so involved in everything. This.
I am more motivated
My
now
job,
than ever.
what we do.
Recruiting
It fascinates
him,
me,
recruiting him,
Yeah.
taking the partners to dinner last night, having the KBSP retreat at my house. redefining the revolution. I actually think we're more of an insurgent organization today than ever. And I remember...
All your work is coming together right now. That's why I worry.
Yeah.
Like, you got to sleep, right? Most of my emails to you is sleep, right? You email me at 2 in the morning, I'm like, sleep.
Look, I love what I do.
I know you do.
You know, but it's the people and it's the ideas and it's what we're doing. And you're right. It's like your typical overnight success story. It took 27 years to develop, in the last 3 years to get recognition. But remember, we had this conversation and the bikes were hanging down in Coconut Grove. We were in a small little office at CPB, and I said, how, like the famous Jay Scheid expression, how big will we get before we get bad? And you said 100 people. Well, now we have 1,000 or 1,100 people.
I never said that.
I thought you did.
No, I never. What I always said is that's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I don't think that size and bad have anything to do with one another. I think that
I agree with that one.
Yeah, there's you have to continue to care to be good. You have to never try to protect what was.
Managing
you have to
growth
continue
is a
to innovate.
yeah,
it becomes challenging in different ways.
Yeah. I think I agree with you 1,000%. There are certain big organizations that are brilliant and innovative and passionate.
Yeah. I do love 100-person organizations, though. It's a sweet size.
It's kind of the thing about it's
an easy size.
It's what brands, to my opinion, what brands are. Yeah. It's telling. When you have a really strong brand, everybody that works for that company knows how to behave in all situations.
Right.
It's a generative metaphor. It tells you what to do. You know, like when I work with Google, every single person who works at Google knows what is and isn't googly. Yeah. And every time they see a new thing that's not googly, that is, right? And to me, that's the hardest bit. How do you get the culture?
See,
part of it is just sharing. Part of it is just sharing it.
Right.
If you don't take the step to say this is who we think we are, and we're not embarrassed of it.
Right.
We know that it's not for everybody.
And it can't be.
See, the whole thing that I focus on is not just does everybody know who we are, but does everybody know where we want to go and to redefine who we are into the future.
So that's a good. We got very little time left. I want you get to
That's
pitch.
disappointing.
You guys are doing something with Wired Magazine.
Yep.
Can you say what that is?
So Wired Magazine has it was Magazine of the Decade. It has a conference called Design Disruption, and we became their partner in it. It's on June the 14th, and it's got some of the great thought leaders in the world today. Howard Schultz from Starbucks. It's got Fred Smith coming. It's got Chris Anderson. It's got all these great technology, innovative
You're gonna
people.
come, right?
Well, I don't know if I'm going to come.
Aww.
Probably, yeah.
I hope so.
But
And we're doing one really cool thing, which is Speed to Genius that Laurie Senecal, and that is, it wasn't just important to have brilliant ideas. It's important to get them to the marketplace at fast time. Before you had to choose, now you got to be brilliant and
crucial,
fast.
Man. The cultural context, as I said, it's changing exponentially. So if you take 9 months to develop something, by the time it goes into the world, the world is different, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
So
the thing I love about what you're doing with Wired is if you're talking about advertising as an advertising person, you are going to miss it because it's existing within this broader context of what's going on in culture, and that's what Wired is about, you know, and that's what the conference is going to be about. And it's not going to be about 10 ways to optimize, your search engine.
No, and it's about that convergence, the creativity and technology and the world is all smashing together, being driven forward by Moore's law. Yeah. That's the determinant that's changing everything, and so that's kind of, no matter what you do, that's the thing that's changing what your life is going to be like next year and the year after.
Totally.
And that's cool.
Well, I want to thank you guys for
It was great.
spending so much time.
Thank you for having us, man.
What's next? Well, actually, why don't you just tell us what is next for MDC? I think it's tied into this. Where are you going?
Well, I think to continue to reinvent what the industry should look like and our opportunity to capitalize on it. We need to be more fearless.
And I think
we have to be more opportunistic about capitalizing on brilliant people like you guys and getting your view of where the world's going.
No pressure.
Yeah. Well, I think it's broadening the conversation. This is what you guys are doing with the holding company and with everything with Wired and with the stuff that we're going to hopefully do with Fearless. We're going to broaden the conversation so that it is not about advertising. It's about what is going on in culture and can we bring together the smartest people to help brands?
And if you think about it, I mean,
it.
look, it started with Chuck, then Katie, then Amy, now you, Ferris, etc. Like, we have the smartest people in the industry that we can call upon that are having an emotional sense of ownership of what MDC can do. to bring them in. We're privileged to have that, and what we need to do is invest behind their vision.
And I think one of the big things that these, I guess, digitally minded people that are coming into the industry bring is that they're not quite as rigid about protecting the magical secret sauce they had. They're like, I hang out with lots of people from different agencies, and we constantly share stuff, and we're all writing in public and thinking in public.
That's key.
And we're all getting smarter, hopefully, because we do that, you know?
Yeah.
That's key to the differentiation from a culture perspective. We are all partners.
Right.
We're not competitors. We are all partners. We stand taller by standing beside each other.
Yeah, yeah.
Except me, I'm quite sure.
Collaboration is the new competition.
Yeah, I like that.
That's mine. You could take it, though.
Do I have to give you attribution?
I'd love that.
Put it in the book of quotes.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming
Terrific.
on.
Thank you, sir.
Great to
We'll
be
see you
here.
guys next time. I'm going to roll credits with the credit machine.
Oh, yeah.
Come on, let's shoot the shit. Let's pontificate, verbally masturbate. Come on, come on, come on, let's shoot the shit. It's time to shoot the shit. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, motherfucker, let's shoot the shit.